Hello everyone, I am David Milan and welcome to my channel FactUSA Nova. Let's discover an amazing fact in every day.
Basically reframes our very own planet as the ultimate unexplored alien world. We spend literally billions of dollars searching for signs of life on Mars or exploring the far side of the moon. But right here, right beneath our feet, lies this realm of just unimaginable mystery. Today, we're journeying into the deep ocean. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with a really staggering comparison that honestly perfectly illustrates our priorities as a species. Since 1969, we've sent 12 humans to walk on the moon. 12! Yet, if you look historically, only 3 humans, Jacques Piccard, Don Walsh, and the filmmaker James Cameron, have actually descended to the absolute deepest point of our own ocean, the Mariana Trench. It's wild to think about, but we literally know more about the surface of the moon than the bottom of our own sea. And this really highlights the sheer scale of what we just don't know. Because you can't really say you've explored the seafloor until human eyes, or at least our cameras, have actually seen it, right? To date, explorers have laid eyes on less than 0.001% of the deep seafloor. To put that into perspective for you, that's an area roughly the size of Rhode Island. And when you consider that more than 90% of the entire ocean is classified as deep ocean, meaning deeper than 200 meters, well, a massive, staggering majority of our planet remains completely unseen. Which brings us to Section 1, the Forgotten Alien Frontier, Earth's largest livable space. Now, you might have heard people say that the whole ocean floor has already been mapped. And, well, that's true, but it's been mapped from space using satellite radar to measure the sea surface. That satellite data is great, but it only really reveals massive bumps that are larger than 5 kilometers across. We completely miss the intricate details. To actually see things like underwater mountains, seamounts, or shipwrecks, we absolutely need modern, high-resolution multi-beam sonar mounted on our research ships. It's a totally different ballgame. So what actually happens when we go deeper? That's Section 2, Inside the Hadal Zone, Descending into the Trenches. The Hadal Zone is aptly named after Hades, the ancient Greek god of the underworld. It's the absolute deepest region of the marine environment, spanning anywhere from 6 to 11 kilometers below sea level. And what's really fascinating here is the geometry. While these narrow, V-shaped subduction trenches make up less than 0.25% of the global seafloor area, they account for over 40% of the ocean's total depth range. It is just a massive, plunging vertical drop into the unknown. And down there, the conditions are, well, unimaginably extreme. Up here on the surface, we live at 1 atmosphere of pressure. But drop down to the bottom of the Hadal Zone, and you're dealing with crushing hydrostatic pressures exceeding 1,100 standard atmospheres. Just try to picture this. That's the equivalent of having the weight of 50 jumbo jets resting directly on your body. 50 jumbo jets. It's an environment so incredibly hostile that, for the longest time, scientists just assumed it was completely barren. No way life could exist there, right? But here's the crucial point. Life doesn't just survive down here, it adapts in amazingly bizarre ways. Think about it. There's a complete lack of sunlight, and nutrients mostly come from whatever marine snow or dead stuff drips down from above. Yet we're looking at over 400 known species thriving. We see these weird evolutionary quirks like gigantism in massive supergiant amphipods right alongside extreme dwarfism in tiny nematodes. And at the base of this whole food web, symbiotic bacteria that literally metabolize hydrogen and methane, which is naturally released by the chemical reactions of the rocks themselves. Nature always finds a way. But long before we could actually send cameras down to see these creatures, we were simply listening. Welcome to Section 3, Spooky Sounds from Below, Echoes in the Dark. Okay, I want you to imagine this. You're listening to hydrophones, these highly sensitive underwater microphones placed in the pitch-black, freezing ocean. And suddenly, you hear massive, unexplained noises echoing from the deep. We're talking sounds so incredibly loud, they get picked up by sensors thousands of miles apart. What exactly is going bloop in the night down there? Well, for years, sounds like the famous 1997 bloop sparked all these wild rumors of giant undiscovered sea monsters, mostly because the acoustic profile sounded a lot like marine animals, but just on an impossibly loud scale. But science always brings us back to reality. Researchers eventually linked these spooky anomalies directly to the Earth itself. The 1991 upsweep, that was undersea volcanic activity. The 1997 bloop, train, and slowdown, those were actually massive ice quakes, literally fracturing icebergs scraping along the seafloor. And Julia in 1999, that was an Antarctic iceberg violently colliding with the ocean bottom. So no sea monsters, at least not this time.
which smoothly brings us from the eerie mysteries of the past into the thrilling reality of current biological research. Section 4. The Ocean Species Explosion. Accelerating Discovery. We are quite literally living in a golden age of discovery right now. Through initiatives like the Ocean Census, scientists identified 1,121 previously unknown marine species in just a single year. 1,121. That represents a massive 54% jump in the annual rate of species identification. We're finally breaking through the bottleneck of taxonomy and cataloging life faster than ever before.
And we're uncovering an absolute alien menagerie right here on Earth. Just listen to some of these recent finds. We found an ancient ghost shark, Chimera, in the Coral Sea, an evolutionary line that predates the dinosaurs. A bizarre symbiotic worm that lives entirely inside the intricate silica chambers of a sponge. It's effectively a deep-sea glass castle. We found vividly colored ribbon worms packed with potent chemical defenses, and deep-sea snailfish caught on camera laying their eggs directly on black coral, which is a behavior completely unknown to us until just recently, is just wild.
Of course, to find all these incredible creatures, we first need to know exactly where to look, right? We need better maps. This leads us to Section 5, Mapping Our Shared Ocean, Closing the Data Gap.
So historically, we had only mapped a tiny fraction, about 0.05% of the ocean floor to modern, high-resolution standards. But thanks to massive global collaborations like the Seabed 2030 project, we've seen this rapid, truly exponential increase. By June 2025, we hit 27.3%, and by early 2026, we jumped to nearly 29% of the global seafloor mapped. We are closing that huge data gap at phenomenal speed.
And let's look at how this builds into real-world discoveries. Having this detailed mapping directly guides our submersibles to breathtaking geological features. For instance, a recent expedition to the remote South Sandwich Islands used fresh mapping data to discover relatively shallow hydrothermal vents at 700 meters deep. Down there, they found 4-meter-tall vent chimneys completely covered in life, snails and barnacles everywhere. They mapped massive underwater calderas, proving an explosive volcanic history, and discovered thriving deep-water coral gardens right there in the freezing Southern Ocean.
Ultimately, this unprecedented effort is all about securing our future. As Jamie McMichael-Phillips from Seabed 2030 points out, mapping the seafloor is not just some scientific exercise, it's a global imperative. The oceans dictate our climate, they provide food security, and they really represent the common heritage of mankind. And honestly, we just cannot protect or even sustainably interact with an environment that we haven't charted yet.
So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder. If we have found all of these incredible things, bizarre worms and glass castles, 4-meter-tall boiling vents, creatures somehow thriving under the weight of 50 jumbo jets, by looking at just a tiny, microscopic fraction of the deep, what unimaginable wonders are waiting for us out there in the dark of the remaining 99.999%? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious and keep exploring.